Hajime Nagumo, a regular 17-year-old otaku, is suddenly yanked from his peaceful life and thrown into a fantasy world with his classmates, all tasked with saving humanity. While the others get godlike abilities perfect for battle, Hajime is stuck with a weak transmutation skill that barely makes a dent in combat. His classmates mock him, leaving him feeling worthless. Things take a dark turn when he's betrayed during an expedition in the Great Orcus Labyrinth and cast into a bottomless abyss. Surviving the fall is just the start of his nightmare, as he's surrounded by terrifying monsters and endless misfortunes. But Hajime isn't one to give up. Determined to survive and find a way back home, he begins his struggle for life, and that's when he meets you, a trapped vampire who has her own reasons for wanting to escape. Together with you and a few unexpected allies, Hajime's journey takes a wild turn as he slowly transforms from an average nobody to the world's strongest. If you're loving this story, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more epic adventures. The story kicked off with two classmates heading toward Nagumo, their footsteps echoing as they approached his desk. Without warning, they slammed it, shaking him from his sleep. One of them, Himaya, was a familiar face. He was known for relentlessly bullying Nagumo, always looking for a chance to mock him. That day, he took aim at Nagumo's constant state of tiredness, making fun of his late-night habits. Nagumo, as usual, brushed off the teasing, showing no sign of caring. But then, out of nowhere, Kaori stepped up. With her calm and graceful manner, she sat beside him and gently reminded him of the importance of being on time. Her voice, soft yet firm, carried a subtle weight. Kaori, admired by everyone as one of the school's twin beauties, seemed to share a strange and unexplained bond with Nagumo. Even Nagumo couldn't quite figure out why she was so close to him, but there's no denying it. There was something between them that no one else seemed to understand. Despite the fact that her friends, who were pretty famous at school, didn't really like him, she stuck by Nagumo's side, insisting on being with him. But everything changed in an instant. Just as the tension was brewing, their teacher, Aiko, walked in and told the class to settle down. The next moment, a blinding white light erupted from the floor, and before they could even process what was happening, the class was transported to a whole new world. They had been summoned by the god Ihet as chosen heroes, destined to fight demons and save humanity, which was on the brink of extinction. Captain Meld, the leader of this new world, briefed them on their roles, explaining the status plates and the classes they had been assigned. Apparently, the combat class was the most prestigious in this world, and only 10 out of every 10,000 were lucky enough to receive it. Kaori, much to her surprise, got the healing class, a rare and powerful choice. But luck was not on Nagumo's side. He was assigned a pretty plain synergist class, nothing special. Himaya, one of the popular kids who had been teasing him, laughed at his low rank in this new world. As the story unfolded, we began to wonder, would Nagumo's life finally take a turn for the better in this strange new world? Or would he keep facing the same challenges and struggles as always? Only time would tell. Later, our lowly MC Hajime Nagumo, who is good at literally nothing, suddenly wakes up in the treacherous world of the Great Orcus Labyrinth, a place teeming with monstrous creatures. Struggling to grasp the full scope of his dangerous situation, Nagumo was weighed down by the constant threat of death as he searched for any possible way out. Despite his deep reflections, he couldn't seem to make sense of what was happening to him. In the midst of this confusion, Nagumo's attention was caught by a seemingly harmless bunny nearby. But as he watched, the bunny revealed its true, terrifying nature. It was a monster. With shocking ease, the bunny annihilated two other monsters with a fierce barrage of attacks. After devouring them, it turned its hungry gaze toward Nagumo. Just as the two were about to clash, a much larger predator arrived and killed the bunny, feasting on its remains. Panicking, Nagumo attempted to flee, but the enormous bear that had killed the bunny noticed him and began chasing him down. Despite his desperate efforts, Nagumo's escape failed when the bear viciously attacked him, tearing off one of his arms. Bloodied and in pain, Nagumo realized his only chance of survival was to fight back. Summoning his transmutation powers, which allowed him to reshape objects, he desperately used them in repeated bursts to create weapons and shields to fend off the bear. Eventually, the bear, seemingly tired of the fight, retreated, leaving Nagumo breathing a sigh of relief as he collapsed into a small cave to recover. Wounded and exhausted, Nagumo awoke hours later, finding himself resting beside a sacred stone containing holy water, which he used to heal his injuries and remove curses. He recalled from his high school library days that these mystical stones formed deep within mountains from the concentration of mana. His mind drifted to his past, recalling how unremarkable he had been at the academy compared to his peers. He was ridiculed and looked down upon for his lack of combat prowess, something that still stung in his memories. As Nagumo continued his journey deeper into the labyrinth, flashes of his past life surfaced. He began to piece together the events that had led him to this harsh world, realizing that his current predicament was tied to much more than just bad luck. It was the result of forces beyond his control. 70 days ago, Nagumo and his companions ventured into the perilous Great Orcus Labyrinth, unaware of the dangers that awaited them. As they navigated the treacherous terrain, Nagumo found himself struggling against a fearsome monster. In a moment of desperation, Hajime Nagumo, a classmate, came to his aid, highlighting just how much he needed to step up his game in this ruthless environment. After Emma's intervention, Shirasaki, another teammate, checked on his well-being, reminding him that they had no choice but to keep moving forward. Their journey soon led them to a remarkable discovery, a glance crystal, a rare gemstone prized throughout the kingdom for its beauty. However, the crystal turned out to be a deceptive trap. Upon touching it, they were transported to a dangerous, monster-infested space, where the situation quickly became dire. Kaori, Captain Meld, Shizuku, and the rest of the group rallied together to fend off the demonic horde, but their combined efforts proved ineffective against the overwhelming power of the creatures. Desperate for a way out, the group cast a divine protection spell, hoping it would shield them from harm. Unfortunately, even this powerful defense began to weaken under the relentless assault. In the midst of the chaos, Nagumo used his transmutation ability to fight back, creating barriers and weapons to repel the monsters and buy his classmates time to cross a narrow bridge. But just as he turned back to leave the abyss with the rest of the group, an unexpected betrayal occurred. One of his teammates launched a direct attack on him, knocking him off balance. Struck by the assault, Nagumo fell from the bridge's edge, and as the monsters continued to attack, the bridge was destroyed, sending him plummeting into the labyrinth's unfathomable depths. On the edge of death and feeling completely betrayed by his classmates, Nagumo couldn't help but wonder why he even bothered training in the cursed Great Orcus Labyrinth. But determination kicked in, and he decided that he wasn't going down without a fight. With no food in sight, he started hunting monsters for sustenance and managed to trap 2 wolf monsters. As he ate their flesh, he felt a strange sensation from the wolf's blood, but somehow he pulled through and survived. Curious about his progress, Nagumo checked his status plate and was shocked to see that his level had risen. To his surprise, he had gained new abilities connected to lightning and the traits of wolves. Harnessing his newfound power, he used his transmutation skills to create a revolver-like weapon called Donner, crafting bullets out of stones and firing them with deadly precision. With his upgraded abilities, Nagumo took on a bunny monster, easily defeating it and gaining even more strength. But his real test came when he faced off against the bear once again, eager to settle the score from their last brutal encounter. The bear roared in fury, charging at him with a series of attacks, but Nagumo was calm and prepared, dodging the bear's blows with ease. With sharp focus, Nagumo lined up his shots and delivered a precise bullet straight to the bear's arm, shattering it. Before the creature could recover, he fired again, landing a perfect headshot that brought the battle to a swift, decisive end. This victory was Nagumo's ultimate triumph in his rematch against the beast, proving that he wasn't the weakling he once was. On level 17, Nagumo took a swig of water from the mythical stone, his mind swirling with thoughts of how much longer this journey would drag on. The dungeon was darker than usual, and Nagumo struggled to find anything solid to grab onto in the blackness. His nerves were tested when he faced a monstrous lizard, its massive form barely visible in the pitch-black labyrinth. Keeping his cool, Nagumo used his lightning bombs expertly, hurling them at the creature before finishing it off with a few well-aimed shots from Donner. One monster down and he was only getting started. With each level he cleared, Nagumo's resolve hardened. From level 18 to 44 he plowed through every monster in his path, determined to survive and keep pushing forward. Meanwhile, back in the kingdom, his teammates explained the entire situation to the king. They revealed how they had been lured into a trap by a glance stone on the 20th level of the Great Orcus Labyrinth, which teleported them deep into the dungeon's 65th level, the furthest any human had ever gone. There they encountered the terrifying fearsome behemoth. The king listened gravely, reminding them that their presence in this world was part of a deal. The loss of God's chosen hero had to be kept a secret, and they were forbidden from telling anyone about the incident. Back in the labyrinth, Shizuku cared for Kaori, who was still reeling from the trauma. Kaori recalled the moment when Nagumo was struck by a spell while trying to rejoin them on their way back to the kingdom. She remembered the horror of watching him fall into the depths of the dungeon, leaving her with nothing but a gnawing sense of dread about what would become of him. When Cookie challenged Captain Melt's decision, Shizuku firmly sided with her captain, believing his actions were necessary and justified. But as her mind raced with conflicting thoughts, Shizuku set herself up on the lawn to practice, trying to clear her head. As she trained, her mind drifted back to their arrival in this world, where they had been summoned by the god of worship to fight against the demons and their monstrous allies. Pop Ishtar had given them a briefing on the world's races: humans, demons, and beast men. For decades, humans had been struggling to survive against the demons, who controlled the monsters and had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. The war had ravaged their existence, leaving them on the edge of collapse. Shizuku remembered how they had all chosen this dangerous path, guided by their teacher from Earth, unsure of the fate that awaited them. As her thoughts wandered, Shizuku began to suspect Hayama, another teammate who had always been at odds with Nagumo. She wondered if his hostility stemmed from jealousy, but she quickly brushed the thought aside, focusing on more immediate concerns. Inside, Kaori slowly regained consciousness after 5 long days. Disoriented and panicked, the first thing she asked was about Nagumo. Shizuku hesitated, trying to divert her questions, but Kaori's persistence broke through her defenses. Reluctantly, Shizuku told her about Nagumo's tragic fate. Upon hearing the news, Kaori collapsed in grief, her heartbroken plea to return to the dungeon echoing in the room as she begged Shizuku to bring her back to the place where she had lost him. On the other side of the dungeon, Nagumo presses forward, unaware of just how deep he's gone. He's descended 50 levels from where he started, but his focus is sharp, and his curiosity piqued. He stumbles upon a Pandora's box-like structure, with closed doors deep within the labyrinth. Intrigued, he wonders what could be hiding inside. Using his transmutation skills, he attempts to open the gates, but fails spectacularly. His failure triggers a terrifying response. Monstrous guardians appear, ready to rip him apart. But Nagumo has evolved far beyond his former self. With newfound strength and deadly precision, he takes down the monsters using his powerful Donner shots. As they fall, he discovers something unexpected. The monsters were guarding a key hidden within their bodies. Behind the door, Nagumo finds a girl sealed inside a stone prison. At first, he had hoped for something that might aid him in his journey, but the sight of the girl disappoints him. He turns to leave, but her voice stops him. She begs for his help, revealing that she's been betrayed by her own people. The girl, who introduces herself as a vampire, explains that she was sealed away by her uncle and his ministers, afraid of her immortality and rapid healing powers. Moved by her story, Nagumo uses his powers to break the stone, freeing her. As she steps out, her natural form unfolding, Nagumo catches his breath, still recovering from the strain of breaking the seal. The girl looks at him with gratitude, urging him to name her. After a moment of thought, Nagumo names her Yu, inspired by the moon on Earth. Yu smiles, clearly pleased with her new name, and a quiet bond begins to form between them. Their moment was cut short when Nagumo was hit by daggers, leaving him badly wounded. Feeling a much stronger presence ahead, Nagumo quickly handed his coat to Yu and told her to climb onto his back as he charged forward to face the massive scorpion monster. Despite his injuries, Nagumo didn't hesitate to attack, launching everything he had at the creature, but it was no use. He fired bullets at its tough body, but the metallic scorpion barely reacted. Desperate, Nagumo leaped onto its head to try shooting again, but it still didn't work. As the fight raged on, Nagumo copied the monster's magic and conjured a stone shield while Yu drank his blood to regain her strength. Once she was back at full power, Yu used her Azure Blaze ability to unleash a devastating attack that damaged the monster badly, but it wasn't enough to finish it off. Nagumo told her to strike again, and while the monster was distracted, he took his chance and shot it in the head with his powerful Donner gun, finally taking it down. With the battle over, Yu couldn't help but ask why Nagumo didn't just run and save himself. He answered with a smirk, saying that he preferred facing challenges head-on now. Running away just wasn't his style anymore. After the battle, Yu shared a surprising truth about her regenerative powers, explaining that all the labyrinths in this world were created by mavericks. Mavericks were the most powerful creatures here, once allies of the gods who turned rogue and built the labyrinths to destroy everything. It was believed that the Mavericks still resided at the heart of these labyrinths. Finding them could lead to the surface and a way out of this cursed place. Motivated by this revelation, Nagumo set to work crafting a new rifle called Schlagem, and the pair embarked on a new journey to find the labyrinth's center. As they traveled, Yu started asking Nagumo about his past. He told her that he was from Earth, a completely different world. He and his friends were summoned by the god 8 to fight against demons. But unlike his friends, Nagumo was never a great fighter. He was more of a synergist, someone who supported others. He reflected on how he always felt weak and useless compared to his classmates. He also shared a painful memory of being betrayed by his friends, losing an arm in a battle with a monster. But now he no longer cared about them and was solely focused on improving himself. He said he held no hatred for them, though only a quiet resolve to move forward. You listened to his story and tears began to fall from her eyes. She told Nagumo that his pain didn't seem so different from hers. She too had no home, no place to call her own. Touched by her words, Nagumo made a decision. He invited you to join him on his journey, promising that they'd face whatever came together. As they journeyed through the wild, they came across a strange sight, a herd of dinosaurs each sporting flowers on their heads. Nagumo quickly deduced that the flowers must be controlling the creatures. Realizing they were facing a swarm of monsters, he concluded that the key to stopping them lay in finding the mastermind behind the control. With the dinosaurs hot on their tail, they sprinted for their lives, eventually taking refuge in a cave surrounded by shimmering green crystals. Nagumo sensed that the source of the control was lurking within this very cave. Suddenly, a flower bloomed on Yu's head, signaling that she too had fallen under the monster's influence. In a terrifying turn of events, Yu began attacking Nagumo, her eyes cold and unrecognizable. But Nagumo's sharp reflexes kept him from being hit. While defending himself, he spotted the monster behind Yu, smirking at him. Yu demanded that Nagumo shoot at the creature, regardless of what happened to her. Without hesitation, Nagumo fired, the bullet piercing through the flower and striking the monster dead center. Another one down. As the fight ended, Yu, fuming with anger, glared at Nagumo, upset by his apparent disregard for her well-being during the battle. She also threw in her frustration over him ruining her carefully crafted sculpture. Later, as they rested around the campfire, Nagumo bragged about the monster meat they'd managed to scavenge. Yu approached him with an unsettling hunger in her eyes, licking her lips. In an unexpected move, she stripped down to her nature attire and stood before him, inviting Nagumo to let her love his body. The next morning, as they continued deeper into the labyrinth, Yu noticed that Nagumo was being unusually cautious. They descended a flight of stairs and finally they reached a door. Nagumo's eyes gleamed with a spark of hope as he sensed that the key to escaping this nightmare might lie just beyond it. Undeterred by the dangers they've already faced, Nagumo and Yu continue their journey, determined to conquer the labyrinth. They reach the 100th floor, but the deeper they descend, the more the atmosphere shifts. They find themselves in a vast, eerie expanse, filled with glass structures that reflect the pervasive light in strange ways. Both are momentarily entranced by the haunting beauty of this place, but their awe is quickly interrupted. The ground beneath them begins to shake violently, signaling the arrival of their ultimate adversary. A crimson glow bursts from the earth, and from it rises an enormous six-faced dragon, its fearsome form dominating the space before them. The battle erupts as the dragons launch their ferocious attacks. Flares of fire streak through the air, followed by sharp daggers aimed directly at them. But Nagumo and Yu are no strangers to danger. They move with precision and grace, countering with deadly efficiency. Nagumo opens fire with his Donner, each shot ringing out with brutal force, while Yu summons glacial sleets that strike the dragons with chilling force. The dragons are injured, but to Nagumo's shock, they heal almost instantly, aided by a healing dragon among them. Nagumo quickly analyzes the situation and realizes that each of the 6 dragons has a distinct role. Some defend, some deceive, some attack, and others heal. He knows he can't defeat them all head-on without a plan. With a shared understanding, he and Yu decide to focus their efforts on the healing dragon first, launching a full barrage of attacks. But to their surprise, the defending dragon absorbs all the damage meant for the healer, acting as a perfect shield and maintaining the balance between all 6 dragons. The fight has only just begun, and Nagumo knows they must adapt quickly if they're to have any chance of victory. Out of nowhere, a dragon strikes, twisting Yu's mind with a dark spell. It dredges up painful memories of her captivity and lures her into a twisted illusion where Nagumo abandons her, completely enthralled by the dragon. Yu panics, tears streaming down her face as she believes she's lost him. Nagumo quickly realizes something is wrong. He sees Yu frozen in place, vulnerable to a monster ready to devour her. Without hesitation, he rushes in, breaking the spell and pulling her from the nightmare. Yu clings to him, her body trembling. In that moment, Nagumo conjures a protective shield, drawing closer to her. Then, in a bold, unexpected move, he presses his lips gently against hers. The kiss, soft but full of meaning, floods Yu with warmth and reassurance. It sparks a surge of power deep inside her, a new wave of confidence that makes her feel unstoppable. She stands taller, ready to fight. Nagumo looks at her, determined. "We'll beat this together," he promises, his voice steady. With the love they share giving her strength, Yu goes all out, launching a barrage of powerful spells, each one hitting the dragon with intense force. Nagumo, seeing the shift in her, grabs his rifle and and steps up his attacks, firing with deadly precision. The dragon tries to trap Nagumo in the same mind game, but his mental strength is too much, and he snaps out of it in an instant. Yu, now fully in control of her powers, unleashes her heavenly blade spells, slicing through several of the dragon's heads. But the battle is far from over. There's still more to come, and Nagumo and Yu know they've got to keep fighting side by side. The Guardian of the Depths ramps up its attack, bombarding them with fiercer, more brutal strikes. The dragon releases a deadly blast of fiery lightning, aiming straight for Yu, who's cornered. Without thinking, Nagumo leaps into the line of fire, throwing himself in front of her to shield her from the blast. His selfless act takes a heavy toll, leaving him battered and collapsing at Yu's feet, his body wrecked with injuries. Amid the chaos and with desperation driving her, Yu grabs her weapon and takes aim at the relentless beast, but her shots barely make a dent. The dragon, undeterred, keeps coming at them with brutal force, not even slowing down. The Guardian summons a storm of searing daggers, raining down on them like a deadly hailstorm. As the battle drags on, it becomes painfully clear that victory is slipping away from them. In a heart-wrenching moment, Yu finds herself on the ground, feeling the weight of defeat. She's ready to give in, thinking it's the end. But then she feels herself being lifted, and to her surprise, she wakes up in Nagumo's arms. Somehow, he's regained his strength, and together, they find a rhythm in their attacks. With newfound determination, they strike as one, cornering the monster and finally bringing it down in a victorious blow. Exhausted but triumphant, Nagumo collapses into Yu's arms. Just then, the door before them creaks open, revealing the path to the heart of the Maverick's lair. On the other side, Aiko clashes with Pope Ishtar, furious over his decision to send the students back into the dungeon. She argues that they're still reeling from the loss of their friend, and sending them back now is like throwing their lives away. Pope Ishtar counters that only those willing to fight should go, and with a final, fiery glare, Aiko storms off, swearing to do whatever it takes to protect the students. The following morning, Nagumo woke with a start, his eyes snapping open to an unfamiliar sight. He was lying in a bed, and for a moment he couldn't understand how he ended up there. His mind raced as he wondered why there was a bed in the middle of the wilderness, but his shock deepened when he turned to his side and saw Yu lying next to him, completely naked. His heart skipped a beat and panic surged through him. He jumped out of the bed, grabbing his clothes and quickly putting them on. He turned to Yu, his voice trembling, and asked where they were. Yu, calm as ever, explained that they were in the Maverick's lair. She had taken him there after he collapsed following the battle. She then pointed out that the clothes he was wearing belonged to the Maverick. The realization hit him hard. If the clothes belonged to the Maverick, then that meant the Maverick had to be human. Nagumo's mind raced as he pieced everything together. When they stepped outside the room, Nagumo froze in disbelief. Before him stood a mansion, an unexpected sight in the middle of the dungeon. It was the last place he imagined finding himself, but he followed Yu as they entered. As they explored the mansion, they stumbled upon a room marked with a strange symbol on the floor and a skeletal corpse seated in a chair. Nagumo stepped cautiously to the side, watching in astonishment as the soul of a man named Oscar Orcus emerged from the skeleton. Oscar introduced himself as the creator of the labyrinth and praised Nagumo for surviving the trials and reaching this point. He explained that the message he was delivering was pre-recorded, meant for those who made it this far. Meanwhile, Kaori, Shizuku, and the rest of their teammates were locked in a fierce rematch against the behemoth monster on the 65th floor. This time there would be no retreat, no running. The students had made up their minds to face the beast head-on. Cookie, with his usual confidence, stepped forward, taking charge of the assault. He quickly assumed the role of leader, his voice sharp and clear as he issued commands to coordinate their attack. He divided the team into specific roles, knowing the importance of unity in the upcoming clash. With his leadership, they moved like a well-oiled machine. Henson, the most daring of the group, charged straight at the behemoth, drawing its attention to him. This allowed the others to strike from multiple directions, gaining valuable openings. Shizuku, her sword gleaming with determination, delivered a brutal slash aimed at the behemoth's horn. The force behind her strike was enough to sever one of its massive horns, but the creature remained unfazed. The battle seemed to turn in favor of the behemoth as it retaliated with overwhelming power. Suzu, ever quick on her feet, summoned her shield just in time to block the behemoth's crushing attacks. As she held her ground, Kaori's spell washed over them, boosting their strength and providing the edge they needed. Together, Suzu and Kaori launched their first series of meaningful blows, starting to wear down the behemoth. Seeing the tide shift, Cookie didn't hesitate. He seized the opportunity, leaping onto the creature and delivering a powerful, precise strike. With a final, decisive blow, he ended the battle, tipping the scales in their favor. On the other side, Oscar Orcus passed on his power to Nagumo, cautioning him not to misuse it for evil purposes. As the magical energy surged through him, Nagumo felt an overwhelming sensation, as though the entire history of the world was being etched into his mind. The flood of knowledge revealed a stunning truth. The Mavericks, far from being villains, were actually liberators. The legends surrounding them had been completely misunderstood, distorted into false accusations. Together, Nagumo and Yu respectfully buried Oscar's remains, honoring his legacy. The only item they kept was a ring that held the key to unlocking various hidden places, a gift that would prove invaluable to Nagumo. With Oscar's teachings in his mind, Nagumo now had the ability to harness creation magic, an extraordinary power that allowed him to craft anything his heart desired. Eager to explore his newfound abilities, Nagumo and Yu spent their days experimenting with different skills. Nagumo, fascinated by the possibilities, created a variety of weapons to aid in future battles. He also began consuming monster meat, drawing on its unique properties to further enhance his strength. Despite the allure of raiding other labyrinths, Nagumo made a conscious decision to focus on honing his abilities for the challenges ahead. Months of intense training followed, each day sharpening his skills and fortifying his resolve. By the end of this rigorous period, Nagumo felt prepared, his body and mind ready to face the dangers that awaited him. Nagumo turned to Yu, his voice heavy with warning. He told her that the path they were on was dangerous, with death lurking around every corner. He reminded her that their actions could spark a firestorm, drawing the wrath of not just the church in the kingdom, but possibly even the gods themselves. The weight of his words was clear. This was no easy road, but Yu wasn't shaken. Her gaze met his, strong and unwavering. She had made her choice and nothing was going to change that. While Shia nervously waited, a terrifying monster suddenly appeared, sending a wave of panic through her. Fear for her life gripped her and she ran, hoping to find help. Just when it seemed all was lost, Hajime and Yu arrived, causing the monster to retreat in haste. Shia let out a breath of relief as her allies appeared, but her relief quickly turned to confusion when Hajime and Yu, seemingly indifferent, simply walked away without acknowledging her. The tension in the air shifted when the monster reappeared in front of Hajime. Without missing a beat, Hajime drew his gun and with shocking accuracy, took down the creature with 2 quick shots. Shia, still shaken but grateful, finally gathered the courage to introduce herself. She explained that she was the eldest daughter of the Halia beast tribe and urgently needed their help. She wasted no time launching into her plea, explaining that she had been exiled from her home, which had since fallen victim to a vicious monster attack. Shia then revealed her rare ability to manipulate mana, a skill uncommon among her tribe. What truly set her apart, however, was her mastery of future sight, a special magic that allowed her to glimpse possible future events. As she laid out her story, Shia passionately begged Hajime for help in saving her tribe. Hajime, skeptical at first, finally asked what he would gain from helping her. Shia, not missing a beat, pointed out that the area he planned to enter was shrouded in thick fog. She offered herself as a guide, a native of the Sea of Trees, knowing the terrain better than anyone. Her knowledge could be the key to navigating the dangers ahead. Yu suddenly spoke up, suggesting that bringing Shia along as a guide would be a smart move. Hajime gave a quick nod of agreement, and with that, the trio plunged into the forest. Together, they tore through one monster after another, barely breaking a sweat. Over time, Hajime, Yu, and Shia became an unstoppable team, wiping out every foe that came their way and giving Shia's tribe the relief they so desperately needed. One peaceful evening, after a long day of slaying monsters, the group finally had a chance to relax. Shia, curious about Hajime's true intentions, broke the silence. She asked him what he really wanted. Without hesitation, Hajime looked her in the eye and told her the truth. His only goal was to return home with you. Shia, moved by his honesty, shared her own wish to travel with Hajime on his journey, hoping to find a place where she belonged. Meanwhile, the Halia tribe, inspired by the trio's strength, made a bold decision. They were done with being weak. They understood now that survival meant getting stronger or perishing. Hajime, ever blunt, laid it out for them: kill or be killed. The tribe's people were fired up by his words, their resolve hardening. It was time to step up. Hajime wasted no time. He ordered the tribe to start monster hunting, pushing them to prove their newfound strength. The tribesmen, eager to prove themselves, set out with a fierce determination. Later, Shia and Yu faced off in a playful duel. Shia, not backing down, managed to scratch Yu's cheek, earning a surprised look from her. The fight was interrupted by Hajime, who casually asked Yu how Shia had done. Just then, the tribesmen returned from their hunt, proudly presenting the trophies of their kill. They wore expressions full of bloodlust, their victory a testament to their growth. The group then made their way to the great tree, where they stumbled upon a mysterious monument. Inside, Yu quickly deciphered the strange symbols etched into it. To their surprise, the symbols were relics from other labyrinths. Hajime, sensing the Halia tribe's growing potential, instructed them to stay behind and focus on their training. He hinted that they might need their help later, signaling a future where the tribe's strength and his group's power would intertwine. This moment marked the beginning of a real partnership, where Hajime saw the tribe not as a burden but as valuable allies. As time passed, Shea found herself lost in thought, recalling her mother's words. She remembered how her mother had once said that beyond the sea of trees, Shea would meet people who were truly exceptional. Standing alongside Hajime and Yu now, she realized her mother's prophecy was coming true in ways she hadn't imagined. The atmosphere shifted when Shea turned to Yu with a playful smile. She reminded Yu about their bet, saying it was time for Yu to honor the deal since Shea had won their friendly duel. But Hajime, ever the pragmatist, shut it down quickly, insisting he had no intention of giving anything in return. Unfazed, Shea fired back, her eyes gleaming with determination. She told Hajime that the future wasn't something set in stone, it could be shaped and molded by those who had the will to change it. With enough resolve, she argued, anyone could take charge of their own fate and twist it to their will. In the wilds of Raizen Gorge, Hajime and his team were on a relentless search for the entrance to the labyrinth. As they moved deeper into the gorge, Shea suddenly spotted something hidden, an entrance they had been hunting for. Thrilled by her discovery, she eagerly called Hajime and Yu over. With no time to waste, the trio stepped inside, ready for whatever awaited them. Once inside, Hajime wasted no time. A group of monsters suddenly attacked, but he swiftly took them down with ease, leaving no room for hesitation. Moving forward, the team stumbled upon a stone tablet. Shea, always eager to explore, swung her hammer at it, smashing it to pieces. As the stone cracked, a voice echoed from the remnants, warning them that it would regenerate soon enough. But Hajime and the others were undeterred. They weren't backing down now. The team pushed forward, and soon they found themselves dodging a series of deadly traps. But with their teamwork and quick thinking, they breezed through one after another. Each trap, each challenge only made them stronger, and they made their way deeper into the labyrinth. After what felt like forever, they were back in the very room where it all began. It was like they had come full circle. Back in the Highlight Kingdom, Yuka paced nervously. Aiko was about to leave for an expedition, and Yuka couldn't shake the feeling of restlessness. She knew she couldn't just stand by while everyone else moved forward. So she made up her mind, she would join Aiko on this journey. But she wasn't stopping there. Yuka also wanted to make sure her classmates understood something important, that Hajime Nagumo had been the one to save them all, no matter how hard they tried to ignore it. Meanwhile, inside the labyrinth, Hajime and the team arrived at Milady's lair. But just as they thought they were about to make their move, Hajime spotted something, guards blocking the way. They had hit a roadblock and the real fight was about to begin. With Shea in the front, they confronted the guards blocking their path. After a tense face-off, the group defeated them and quickly ascended a wooden platform, reaching the upper level. At the top, they finally came face to face with Milady Raizen. Hajime wasted no time, cutting straight to the point. "We're here for the ancient magic," he declared. Milady eyed them carefully, then asked why they wanted it. Without hesitation, Hajime shared his story, how he had been dragged into this world by her god and how his only goal was to use the magic to find a way home. But Milady remained tight-lipped about the location of the magic, not giving them any clues. Frustrated but undeterred, Hajime and his team were forced to take matters into their own hands, leading to an all-out battle. The fight was intense, but despite their efforts, they quickly realized that Milady's armor was made of Azantium, an incredibly tough material that made her nearly invincible. But Hajime wasn't about to give up. As the battle raged on, he spotted a potential weak spot, Milady's heart. With sharp focus and coordinated precision, Hajime and Shea relentlessly targeted this vulnerability, hammering away at the critical point, determined to break through her defenses and claim victory. After a fierce battle, their relentless efforts finally paid off as Milady was brought down. As she lay defeated, her strength fading, she issued a final warning to Hajime. With her last breath, she cryptically told him that using ancient magic would have dire consequences. She spoke of his fate as a god-killer, leaving them with more questions than answers before she breathed her last. But their victory was short-lived. As Hajime and the group ventured deeper into the labyrinth, they found out that Milady's death was merely a trick. Using her gravitic magic, she transferred her consciousness into another body, evading death and still very much a threat. While Hajime attempted to seize her treasure, his actions set off a hidden trap. In an instant, they were thrust away, sent hurtling through the labyrinth in a twist of fate. Once again, the labyrinth's danger proved unforgiving, and they found themselves in a new, precarious location. The trio was eventually expelled from the labyrinth, only to land on a distant shore. After catching their bearings, they made their way to Masaka Inn. Hajime approached the receptionist and requested a room for the night. Initially, he asked for a single room to fit all three of them, but you suggested splitting the rooms, one for her and Hajime and another for Shea. However, Shea wasn't having it. She insisted on sharing a room with Hajime, sparking a heated debate between her and Yu. The back and forth grew intense as they clashed over the arrangement. Hajime, already fed up with the tension, rubbed his temples, trying to suppress his frustration as he dealt with the bickering, realizing that the situation between the three of them was growing more complicated by the minute. The leader of the Furin Adventurers Guild. He looked at Hajime Yu and Shia with a serious expression, urging Hajime to hear him out. Without wasting any time, Ilwer explained that he needed Hajime's help to track down a group of adventurers heading toward the northern mountains. Among them was Will Kudeta, the third son of Count Kudeta. Meanwhile, Ilwer requested Hajime to rescue Will and bring him back. Hajime didn't hesitate, but he wasn't about to dive in without setting some ground rules. His first condition was simple. Ilwer must create status plates for him, Yu and Shia. The second, more important one, was that Ilwer must obey Hajime's orders whenever needed. Ilwer, after a brief pause, agreed to both conditions without a second thought. With the deal sealed, Hajime, Yu and Shia got ready for their journey to UR, with plans to head toward the mountains afterward. Meanwhile, in the lakeside town of UR, Aiko and her friends were enjoying a meal, but Aiko couldn't hide her worry about Shimizu. It had been a whole week since he went missing, and she was starting to feel the weight of the uncertainty. To make matters worse, the town was running low on food since traders couldn't reach the mountains due to some complications. Just as they were talking about the situation, Hajime and his companions suddenly walked in. Aiko's face lit up when she spotted him, and she rushed over to greet him. But to her shock, Hajime acted like he didn't know her, purposely ignoring her. Aiko was taken aback, and despite her attempts to engage with him, Hajime kept up the cold front, pretending she was invisible. The tension in the air was thick as they all sat down to eat, with Hajime keeping his distance. Something was definitely off. Aiko couldn't shake off the curiosity about Hajime's sudden appearance, but Hajime just dodged her questions, giving her vague answers. Before the conversation could go anywhere, a Templar knight barged in, acting all high and mighty, and disrespectfully targeted Shia. Hajime wasn't having any of it. Without missing a beat, he stood up, pulled out his gun, and took the knight down in an instant with a single shot. As Yukachi lingered on the memory of Hajime saving her from a demon attack, Hajime turned to Aiko and the rest of the group, his voice serious. He told them not to get in his way, promising that as long as they didn't try to stop him, he wouldn't act against them. With that, he and his crew took off, leaving the group to wonder what to make of it all. Later that night, Aiko lay awake, piecing together Hajime's strange behavior. She figured he must have been through hell and back, enduring trials that shaped him into the person he was now. Just when she thought she could rest, Hajime silently slipped into her room, moving like a shadow, and began to explain why he wouldn't be joining them on their journey. Hajime's words cut through the silence as he talked about the aftermath of the Age of Gods, a time of unrelenting war. He revealed how a twisted, deranged deity had used a group of soldiers known as the Liberators as pawns in a cruel game, manipulating them in the chaos. Humanity had abandoned them in the end, leaving these once heroes to suffer the consequences of their actions. As Hajime continued, he revealed the dark fate of the Liberators. After fighting for freedom, humanity turned on them, pushing them into hiding within the labyrinths they had built. These labyrinths weren't just traps, they were tests. The Liberators created complex trials, and anyone brave enough to survive them was granted extraordinary powers, marking them as rebels in a world that had abandoned them. Hajime's ultimate goal was to find a way back to his world, and he was convinced that the labyrinths held the key to that escape. With that, he and his group prepared to leave, but Hajime dropped one last bombshell. He had been targeted by a magical spell, cast by one of Aiko's own students, which had caused him to collapse. As they made their exit, Aiko's students appeared, eager to join Hajime on his journey. But Hajime shut them down coldly, rejecting their offer without hesitation. Just as they were about to part ways, Aiko stepped forward. Her voice was serious as she told Hajime she needed to know more about the incident. She promised to respect his terms, assuring him that once their conversation was over, she and her students would leave him to continue on his path alone. While sailing on the breeze, Aiko filled Hajime in on the unsettling news: Shimizu had gone missing. As a result, the crew halted, and Hajime immediately deployed Ornis, his trusty automatons that could sense human presence. These devices were linked to his vision through special peering stones, allowing him to spot details others might miss. Using Ornis, Hajime uncovered a crucial clue: an abandoned shield and a discarded bag. This discovery, in turn, sparked his determination to dig deeper. Consequently, the group continued their search, following the trail to a set of enormous footprints, evidence of a massive quadrupedal creature. Their investigation, however, led them into the mountains, where they detected something hidden behind a cascading waterfall. Fortunately, Yu, using her magical powers, revealed a concealed passageway. The group then entered the secret chamber, where they found Will Kudeta. Mission accomplished. Hajime stepped forward, introducing himself and explaining that he was there as part of the Furin Adventurers Guild's rescue mission, directed by the guild's leader. But as the conversation unfolded, Will dropped a heavy bombshell. The black dragon was a looming threat, and he was consumed by guilt over losing his comrades, believing he didn't deserve to survive. In a moment of intensity, Hajime grabbed Will by the collar, shaking him out of his self-pity and harsh outlook on life. He tried to set Will straight, convincing him that there was more to live for. With their mission complete, Hajime led the group back to the guild, determined to get them all out of danger. Out of nowhere, their journey was violently interrupted by an attack from the black dragon. Immediately, the beast charged up its breath attack, forcing Hajime into action. With a quick motion, he conjured a protective shield, but the sheer force of the dragon's blast shook it to its core, threatening to shatter it at any moment. The tension was palpable, as the attack strained Hajime's defenses to the breaking point. Seeing the danger, Yu and Shia sprang into action, each of them using their unique strengths to support Hajime. The dragon momentarily faltered, giving the group a brief reprieve. However, the creature wasn't down for long. It recovered quickly and retaliated, launching another brutal strike that incapacitated Shia, sending her crashing to the ground. With Shia out of commission, Hajime took the lead in confronting the dragon, his resolve unwavering. Sensing the severity of the situation, he ordered Aiko to lead the others to safety, ensuring they didn't get caught in the crossfire. Despite their relentless efforts, the battle grew more intense, and hope seemed to slip away. But then Shia, battered but determined, managed to deliver a game-changing blow with her hammer, striking the dragon down once and for all. As they approached the fallen creature, they discovered that it wasn't just a regular dragon, it was a dragonborn. Through Hajime's persuasive questioning, the Dragonborn opened up about her tragic story. She revealed that she had been fleeing from her homeland, too weary to go any further, and had taken refuge in the mountains, where fate led her to cross paths with them. As Hajime stood over the defeated Dragonborn, she revealed the truth behind her actions. Suddenly, a shadowy figure in a black robe had cursed her with a powerful spell, stripping away her will and turning her into a puppet under his control. Despite her heartfelt plea, Hajime remained unmoved, resolute in his decision to end her life. However, just as he prepared to deliver the final blow, Yu stepped in, her calm voice stopping him cold. She intervened, preventing the execution and giving Tio a second chance at life. Desperate, Tio urged Hajime to remove a metallic rod he had earlier inserted into her body. Without it, she warned, her transformation would cause catastrophic consequences when she reverted to her human form. As Hajime hesitated, the transformation began, and Tio's true form was revealed, a dragonborn of the Claris clan. She explained the grim situation. Her people, the Dragonborn, had all fallen under the dark-robed man's control, forced to become weapons for his attack on the town of Uar. The timing was critical. The monster army was closing in, and the town's survival was in jeopardy. Having heard the terrifying truth, Will turned to Hajime, asking what he planned to do now. But Hajime, as cold as ever, simply stated that intervening in a war would only endanger Will's life, making it clear that he had no intention of getting involved. With his usual resolve, he turned to leave, showing no signs of wanting to warn Uar about the impending threat. Meanwhile, Tio's behavior took a disturbing turn as she began fantasizing about Hajime, her infatuation growing more obvious with every passing moment. Fed up with her antics, Hajime finally snapped, grabbing Tio by one of her legs and dragging her away, his irritation clearly written on his face. Aiko approached Hajime with a desperate plea to help defend their endangered town from an approaching army of monsters. At first, Hajime's stance had been firm, his reluctance to get involved clear. But Aiko's persistence gradually wore down his defenses. As her determination and words began to break through, Hajime's resolve softened. In the end, he agreed to lend his aid to the town of Uar, a decision that suggested a deep respect for his former teacher and the bond they shared. With little time to spare, Hajime and his companions jumped into action, organizing supplies for the townspeople and setting up evacuation routes for the women and children to escape to safety before the monster assault began. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the town, Hajime took his position atop a watchtower, meticulously preparing his arsenal. The weight of the coming battle hung heavily in the air. As he scanned the horizon, Sanobe approached Hajime, expressing her heartfelt gratitude for his help back in the labyrinth. Hajime, in his usual understated way, offered a few words of encouragement, his quiet confidence giving Sanobe the strength to press on with renewed determination. Suddenly, Hajime sensed a presence lurking nearby and called out to Tio, who had been hiding in the shadows. She stepped forward, her infatuation clear as she pledged her unwavering loyalty and begged to join Hajime's cause. Hajime, unamused, politely turned her down at first, but the situation soon demanded his full attention. With the monster army drawing closer, Hajime shifted his focus. He turned to the townspeople of Uar and stepped forward to rally their spirits. In a stirring speech, he reminded them of their strength and courage, especially highlighting Aiko's vital role in their survival. After Hajime's inspiring speech, he wasted no time, striking first with a powerful blow that took down a demonic dragon. The battle quickly heated up into a full-on clash, with Yu, Hajime, and Tio unleashing explosive attacks that tore through the monster horde. But soon, Tio ran out of energy, taking a short break to recover, and Yu began to struggle with her low mana. Seeing the situation intensify, Hajime called for his bike, and with Shia by his side, they rushed forward to face the leader of the monsters. They made quick work of their enemies, cutting down monsters left and right. Amid the chaos, Hajime spotted a figure in the distance, a black-robed man watching from a rocky hill. Determined to put an end to his interference, Hajime and Shia made their way toward him. The black-robed man, mounted on a demon wolf, was swiftly neutralized by Hajime, ending his sinister watching. The shocking twist revealed that the black-robed man was none other than Shimizu. He revealed his dark plan. His goal had never been about saving the town, but about proving his own greatness. Shimizu's journey had taken him deep into the mountains where he made a dangerous pact with a demon, all in a twisted plot to destroy Aiko. Amid the battle's fury, Aiko still held onto a glimmer of hope for Shimizu, believing he could be redeemed. But no matter how hard she tried, Shimizu stood firm in his evil intentions, showing no sign of turning back. The tension spiked as Shimizu, armed with a needle-coated and deadly monster poison, held Aiko hostage, her life hanging by a thread. In a tense standoff, Shimizu demanded Hajime surrender his guns. Just then, a surprise attack from an assailant riding a dragon aimed to take down Shimizu. Chaos erupted as Shia rushed in to protect Aiko, taking hits herself, while Shimizu was also wounded in the process. The situation worsened when Shimizu used the poison needle on Aiko, causing her to fall victim to its effects. Quick on his feet, Hajime used his healing abilities to counter the poison's effects on Aiko, while Shia was treated immediately. As Shimizu's strength dwindled, Hajime demanded to know his true intentions, questioning if he saw him as an enemy. In his dying moments, Shimizu denied any ill will toward Hajime, but Hajime wasn't satisfied with his answer. Ignoring Aiko's pleas for mercy, Hajime delivered a fatal shot, ending Shimizu's life. Later, as the group traveled on the breeze, Yu and Shia came to understand Hajime's reasoning. They realized that Hajime had ended Shimizu's suffering quickly, not out of vengeance, but to protect Aiko from witnessing his slow death. As Hajime and the others go about their business, a young girl suddenly appears, clearly abducted, signaling that trouble is brewing. Back in Furin, Will happily reunites with Guild Master Ilwer, but Hajime isn't here for small talk. He takes the chance to request a new status plate for Tio. Later, Yu, Hajime, Shia, and Tio gather in a room, and Hajime spots something strange from the window. Suspicious figures are lurking on the streets, watching the guild. As they talk, Tio drifts into thought, remembering her father's wise words about the limits of even a god's power and the inevitable downfall of evil. She also recalls her decision to volunteer for the mission to investigate the mysterious alien beings, believing it was crucial for their world's future. The next day, Hajime decides to take Shia on a tour of Furin. Shia, eager for a fun detour, suggests they visit the aquarium. Inside, they come across a talking fish named Lehman. Intrigued, Hajime asks how he ended up here. Lehman explains he got stuck in an underground current and was eventually trapped in the aquarium. Feeling sympathetic, Hajime and Shia quickly come up with a plan to free the fish from his watery prison, ready to make things right. Together, Hajime and Shia work quickly and successfully free Lehman from his aquarium prison, sending him safely into the nearby river. Just as Lehman swims away, he warns them about a disturbing sight he witnessed, a little girl involved in a shady transaction. He mentions the possible presence of slavers in the city and advises them to stay on alert. On their way back, Hajime's sharp senses pick up a strange presence coming from the sewers. He leads the way and soon discovers a young child hidden down there. Meanwhile, back at their base, Tio quietly pulls Yu aside, wondering if she has any concerns about Shia spending time alone with Hajime. Yu, with a calm smile, reassures her. She explains that both she and Shia care deeply for Hajime, and Shia is just as dedicated as Yu in everything she does. After finding the child in the sewers, Hajime carefully lifts her up and starts heading back. As they walk, the child slowly wakes up. Hajime introduces himself and Shia, and after a few questions, learns that her name is Miu. Once they've safely rescued Miu, Hajime and Shia make sure she's comfortable, giving her food and ensuring she's clean and cared for. Meanwhile, Yu and Tio keep chatting about Hajime and Shia. It's clear to Hajime that Miu's captors are probably the same slavers that Lehman warned them about. After talking it over with Shia, Hajime decides it's best to take Miu to the city guards, hoping they'll keep her safe and protected. But just as he's about to head off after leaving Miu with the guards, an explosion rocks the air near where he left her. Panic setting in, Hajime rushes back, only to find a chilling message scratched onto a wall. It demands that Shia, the white-haired bunny girl, be brought to them in exchange for Miu's life. In a heartbeat, Hajime and Shia reunite with Yu and Tio, urgently explaining the situation and asking for their help. Without wasting any time, they all agree to storm the slavers' hideout and rescue Miu. They move like lightning, taking down one gang member after another, showing no mercy. Hajime tracks down the gang leader, and with a cold, ruthless strike, takes him down, ensuring Miu is freed. As the slavers' stronghold crumbles around them, Hajime lifts Miu into the air, with Yu and Shia wiping out any remaining threats. Once the dust settles, Hajime lands, bringing Miu down to meet Yu and Tio. During the moment, Miu, feeling a deep connection, looks up at Hajime and decides to call him Papa, sealing their bond in a way that feels like destiny. A while later, the group is cruising on the breeze, with Shia tearing it up on her motorbike beside them. As they approach the outpost town of Harad, Miu notices Hajime is unusually quiet and asks him what's bothering him. Hajime opens up, revealing he was here 4 months ago. When they reach the town, Hajime finds Loa Bawavis and hands him a letter from Ilwer, full of praise for Hajime's recent heroic feats. Just then, Endo bursts onto the scene, urgently bringing news of a demon attack in the labyrinth. His relief at seeing Hajime alive is obvious. Without wasting any time, Endo rushes to Hajime, practically begging him for help, warning that if they don't act fast, things will get even worse. Meanwhile, the rest of the heroes are already on the hunt, tracking the monster's blood trail and trying to figure out what's going on. As they close in on the source, a demoness steps forward, issuing a chilling challenge: surrender and join her or face the consequences. She ups the ante, revealing that one of their own has already joined her side. But Cookie and the others are skeptical and jump into battle, determined to take down the monsters threatening the town. The fight quickly goes downhill. Shizuku is taken out almost instantly, and it becomes clear that the monsters they're facing are way stronger than anything they've encountered before. The heroes land a blow on one of the creatures, but the demoness immediately heals it with a flash of magic, making it clear just how much tougher this fight is going to be. Realizing they're in serious trouble, Shizuku orders Endo to contact Captain Meld, which will lead to an unexpected meeting between him and Hajime. The battle rages on as the heroes struggle against the overwhelming monsters, but then out of nowhere Cookie's power spikes. He unleashes his limit break, smashing one of the creatures into oblivion. But just as the heroes think they might catch a break, tragedy strikes. Taniguchi is brutally taken down by the demons. Shizuku, crushed by the loss, rushes to Cookie's side, desperate to snap him out of it. She slaps him hard, telling him the situation is hopeless and that they're no match for the demoness. She begs him to retreat before they lose more lives. Meanwhile, Endo is racing to warn Captain Meld about the disaster unfolding. Unbeknownst to Hajime, a demon is closing in on him fast. Captain Meld, badly wounded but still determined, faces the demon head-on, ordering Endo to get out of there while he holds the line. Up on the mountain, Eri and Hayami are filled with dread, fearing for their friend's safety, and even start to consider surrendering to the demoness. Amid the chaos, Captain Meld, battered and broken, makes a last-ditch effort to reach the others, only for the demoness to appear and end his life in front of the heroes. In the middle of all this madness, Loa begs Hajime to help them, but Hajime, unmoved, tells Endo bluntly that these people are strangers to him, he doesn't care about them. As the battle intensifies, Cookie goes all in again, hitting the demoness with another limit break. But this time the act of killing shakes him to his core, leaving him vulnerable. The monster sees the chance and overwhelm him, and soon Cookie is knocked out cold. Back at the guild, Endo doesn't give up, desperately trying to convince Hajime to join the fight. Their shared history weighs heavily on Hajime, and after some hesitation he finally agrees to help the heroes in trouble. Meanwhile, Shizuku is out there putting everything on the line. She's facing off with the monstrous enemies head-on, her bravery shining through, but it's taking a serious toll. Her injuries pile up as she pushes herself further. At a critical moment, Kaori, seeing her friend in danger, rushes to her side, trying to shield Shizuku from more harm. But the monsters aren't backing down. They break through their defenses, putting both Shizuku and Kaori in immediate danger. Just when things seem hopeless, a gleam of hope appears from the sky. A metal rod comes crashing down with deadly precision, slicing through the monsters threatening the two women. The dust clears, revealing the mysterious figure responsible for the miraculous save, none other than Hajime, arriving just in time to turn the tide. As the group scrambles to escape the mountain, Hajime's mind races. He pulls out his trusty pile driver, its long, sturdy rods made from compressed or encoded with azantium, an improvised tool that's about to change everything. With a dramatic flourish, Hajime digs into the ground, creating a hole big enough to launch himself out of the earth. He bursts onto the battlefield with style, announcing his arrival like a hero in the making. The sight of Hajime Nagumo, alive and kicking, shocks everyone into silence. Without wasting a second, Hajime takes control. He doles out tasks to his team, keeping the hardest job, facing off against the demons and their queen, squarely on his shoulders. As the battle rages on, Hajime moves like a whirlwind, cutting through wave after wave of monsters. His fighting skills are beyond impressive, but what truly sets him apart is his ability to sense the hidden, invisible enemies lurking in the chaos. One by one he picks them off with surgical precision. The demon lady, growing more desperate with each passing moment, can't seem to stop Hajime's onslaught. She's terrified, but he's unbothered, relentlessly taking down her horde as if it's just another Tuesday. The heroes watch in awe, wondering who this unstoppable force is. Endo steps up to answer their questions, revealing that this is, in fact, Hajime Nagumo, the same one who supposedly fell to his death. Hayami, still reeling from the events on the bridge, can't believe it. But Endo reassures him, showing them Hajime's authentic status plate, silencing any doubts once and for all. In the middle of the crazy fight, Yu doesn't hold back. She calls out Hayami, questioning his loyalty when it comes to Hajime's brutal actions. Meanwhile, Hajime makes a huge move by taking out the demon lady's healer, making it impossible for her or her demon minions to heal. With her support gone, the demon lady isn't done yet. She summons a massive serpent to attack Shizuku, but Hajime is quick on his feet. He throws a sword to Shizuku, who easily slices the snake into pieces without breaking a sweat. As the demon lady tries to run, Hajime stops her with ease, cutting off her escape. He explains that he figured out the monsters were created with ancient magic, and the demon race got their hands on it by conquering an ancient labyrinth. Ready to finish things once and for all, Hajime prepares to face the demon lady head-on. Amid the aftermath, Cookie desperately tries to stop Hajime, pleading with him to reconsider. But Hajime doesn't flinch. He brushes off Cookie's cries, ignoring his old friend's pleas. With no hesitation, Hajime raises his weapon high and ends the demon lady's life in one swift strike. The mood shifts as the focus moves to Taniguchi and Meld, who are being carefully treated by Shia. After the intense battle, emotions run high, and Kaori can't help but rush over to Hajime, filled with relief, gratitude, and a little something extra. The weight of everything that just happened hits her all at once, and before she knows it, she wraps her arms tightly around him, so thankful he's still standing. As the group starts their journey back, the tension between Hajime and Cookie is thick. It's like you can almost feel it hanging in the air. Hajime, always aware, picks up on Cookie's barely contained rage, all because of the demon lady's death. In a bold move, Hajime decides it's time to face Cookie head-on and finally lay it all out. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. He tells Cookie straight up that he doesn't care about mercy, something Cookie's all about. It's a game changer. Hajime's words hit hard, marking the end of their friendship for good. He warns Cookie loud and clear. If he keeps standing in his way, they'll end up on opposite sides. Just when Hajime thinks it's over, he's stunned to see a huge army led by Loa ready to throw down. In the heavy silence, Kaori finally finds the courage to speak up. With her heart racing, she admits her feelings for Hajime, saying she wants to be by his side. Hajime, ever calm, gently responds, telling her that his heart already belongs to you. He acknowledges Kaori's emotions, but makes it clear that his bond with you is something he can't change. Kaori is left to wrestle with his words, caught between acceptance and disappointment. Just as the air feels thick with unspoken words, Yu chimes in almost playfully. She invites Kaori to come along, taking the opportunity to quietly challenge her, and a sense of rivalry starts to brew between the two. It's clear now that there's more than just respect between them, it's a competition for Hajime's attention. As the conversation winds down, Hajime prepares to leave, letting Kaori know they'll be setting off the next day. And that's just the beginning of Hajime's epic journey. This lowly otaku's adventure is far from over, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the other half of Hajime's incredible story. See you in the next one.